What is up? Welcome into the PFF podcast. I'm Mike Renner, joined by Steve Palazzolo today. No Sam Monson, so sorry to all the big Sam Monson fans out there, all 6 of you. Apologies. He's not going to be on the pod today. I'm not sure why, but he's not here right now.
There's at least 8.
We got 8. Okay, there's 8 emails for Sam here on the wall, so all 8 fans, apologies. He, for some reason, do you know why he's not here?
Yeah, it's a personal reason. He has an excused absence. It's not like 2 weeks ago when you were
okay, so he's not going to get suspended?
There'll be no suspension for Sam.
That seems pretty crappy. I was working at that time when I missed the podcast, so... Well,
maybe manage your time a little bit better.
I'm not bitter. That's all I'll say. I'm not bitter. All right, let's just jump right into the games, though. The Minnesota Vikings go against the Cleveland Browns this week in London. Vikings favored by 9.5. Browns they're going to be without the 2 best players. Joe Thomas done for the season. Myles Garrett, concussion, not even traveling. They were already bad, and only getting worse.
We had a moment of silence for Joe on the podcast on Monday, just to respect his career. Myles Garrett, I mean, look, if you're a Browns fan, to me it's all about just finding these young pieces and how they're going to fit for the future, and you want to just see what Myles Garrett brings to the table, so that's a little sad. The carousel, it fell on Kaiser again. I believe he's starting again this time, so they just need to start showing signs of improvement, or else is this Hugh Jackson's job on the line?
That's what I was just going to say. Like, the whole quarterback carousel, if he wasn't going through this, I feel like his job really wouldn't be in jeopardy. If it was just Kaiser all the way, let him play through any of his, all the issues that he has had. There's been a number of them, but let him work through them on the field instead of at every point in time switching from this guy to the next guy just because on a whim. Right. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Like that, to me, if I'm the owner, if I'm making a decision, that's more infuriating than just staying the course, because that's what they should be staying the course right now. The whole front office, the GM, they're staying the course there in terms of drafting and developing.
Right.
So if you have that sort of difference between the coach wants to win now and do all these odd different things with his quarterback position, the front office doesn't really. They just want to see a quarterback of the future. It's just really, I could see him losing his job at the end of this year.
And they probably don't have a ton of faith in Kessler. Anyway, I mean, we've said on here before, I mean, if you're talking right now and you wanted to win games, I think Kessler is your best option. But you have to see what you have in Kaiser, and you don't know after only 6 games. My big thing, we saw a little bit improved play from guys like Joe Schobert last week. And, I just want to continue to see those young guys play better. They were much better against the run. They did a nice job against that Tennessee rushing attack. So, I mean, you just want to see signs of improvement for the Browns. Vikings on the other side, that defense, I don't know if it's going under the radar this year, because last year they started out great and they looked like the best D in the league overall as a team, but similar this year as far as, getting after the quarterback, making things difficult in the back 7, Harrison Smith playing, lights out football at safety, Everson Griffin rushing off the edge as well as anybody right now. So that defense is legit.
Well, and Anthony Barr is back. I think that's the single biggest difference from a season ago to this year. No clue what happened to him last year, but was legitimately a shell of himself, of the guy we saw back in 2015. He only had 32 stops all of 2016. Already has 23, had 7 a week ago. He is just playing at a different level than what we saw in 2016, and that's been the difference in this defense, in my opinion.
And we got Stephon Diggs back practicing, should be on the field, right?
So that's big. When they have him and Thielen healthy, it's a pretty tough 1-2 punch for anyone. Going to be especially tough for the Browns. They're 9.5-point favorites.
Yeah, we both took the Vikings.
And that seems a little even low to me.
Yeah, we both took the Vikings. Maybe the London thing. I don't know if the London thing, how it works, if it brings teams closer together, or if one team. Seems like this year it's always been one team has been a disaster. The other team handles it better. And if that's the case, maybe it is a blowout. But Vikings still overcoming some poor offensive line play overall. But, they're in case Keenum's taking a step back from his quick start. But, Minnesota should win this game.
It should be handled. Yeah, we're both going Minnesota in that one. I don't know what they do with Everson Griffin with Joe Thomas out. That's just going to be a big issue for them. So we both like them. On to the Raiders, who travel across the country to face the Buffalo Bills. Bills favored in this one, 2.5-point favorites, but Raiders coming off a big win last Thursday night. Season-saving win.
Possibly. It really was.
I mean, if they go to 2-5, you're toast. So.
Oh, yeah. And against Kansas City, you know, kind of getting over that hump. I mean, that was huge.
Can they keep that offensive magic that I don't think anyone expected to put up as many points as they did against the Chiefs? Can they do that against the Bills?
Well, look, I think the Bills are going to make it more difficult than the Chiefs did. Derek Carr threw like 12 game-winning touchdowns, didn't he? They kept getting negated and dropped and, called back due to replay. He did a really nice job down the stretch. Amari Cooper finally broke out. That game everybody was kind of waiting for, even though he's still dropping passes. But it doesn't matter when you're putting up over 200 receiving yards and getting away with offensive pass interferences for touchdowns. It doesn't matter. But that's what they should be offensively, right? I mean, that is what we should be seeing, this high-powered passing attack, from the Raiders. It's still just a matter, defensively, can they make enough stops? Can you trust that secondary, for an entire game, week in, week out?
Yeah, that is, I think, the biggest matchup in this one is does the Bills' offense actually get on track? Because Bills, despite their record, have still been pretty poor offensively. I just think they've taken a huge step back from where they were a season ago. We've talked about that before. A lot of the option stuff they just did away with. They're still doing some, but it was super option heavy a season ago. They've taken a little step back. Tyrod Taylor's playing a lot more under center.
Just conservative football. So Tyrod has one turnover-worthy play, lowest percentage of turnover-worthy plays, not a ton of big-time throws. So the grades, he's just not making a lot of pure mistakes, not missing a ton of throws, but it's also not this, exciting, move the chains type of offense.
Well, they don't really have the receivers on the outside to execute a high. They're kind of the opposite of Oakland, that they don't have these targets who can win down the field consistently. So all of a sudden you become a limited, and I don't think it's really playing to Tyrod's strengths, because his strength is accuracy down the field and deep balls. So
he should be able to create some big plays. Sam keeps pointing out Zay Jones, his catch percentage. Have you seen that?
Awful.
25%. 7 for 28 when targeting him with 4 drops. Zay was supposed to be this, like one of the best possession receivers in the draft. I think I mocked him to Green Bay a couple times thinking, oh, man, this guy can run the slant and the curl and run, short game, high efficient guy.
He's like
7 for 28 when targeting
Nelson
him.
Aguilar 2.0, like 3.0. Like he's taken it to another level.
Don't give up on him yet. But
I know I'm not giving up on him, but that is like beyond anything I've ever seen. And because he's not playing with, John Skelton at quarterback. He's not playing with a guy who's whiffing on him.
Right.
Like he's just not getting open.
Tyrod's playing some pretty good football, and look, the Bills' defense is still. I think we're at the point where you say, okay, they're going to keep them in every game. I don't know if they're as good as they've shown all season, but with Jerry Hughes off the edge, and we saw what Tre'Davious White's been doing at corner as a rookie, and the safeties, we always talk about them every single week. So the Bills are just. They're going to be a tough team to beat every single week.
Yeah, I can't really make heads or tails of this game. I think that 2.5-point line is solely because, Bills are at home, Oakland Raiders traveling across the country. I think they're fairly evenly matched teams.
Right.
I'm going to take Oakland in this one just because of what I saw from Amari Cooper last week. I think there's sort of a mental aspect to drops and futility at the wide receiver position where it starts to build. Like you start to get in your own head a little bit if you are, just as poorly as he was playing through the first 5 weeks of the season, only 150 yards or whatever he had. I think that is gone. I think we're going to see the Amari Cooper that we expected throughout the rest of the year. And so I think that's, to me, is why I'm going to pick Oakland. So it's going to be a little different. I think the offense is going to get back on track.
Yeah, and I went with Buffalo, and I'm still at that point of the season where it's like, could you imagine 8 weeks ago coming into the year, and we said Buffalo would be even in Buffalo that they would be favored over Oakland. This might be the time of year where we start to revert back to Oakland's better and Buffalo's Buffalo, but I took Buffalo because I do believe in their defense keeping it close, and Tyrod's playing some safe, good football.
This is the time of the year, though, where I think I know exactly how good every team is. And I bet like a ton of games this week because I'm like, I know exactly how good this team is against that team.
You have enough information.
Yeah, it's like I think I have enough information where I have a read on every single team. Except for these two, I don't know yet. So
there you go. So you're not touching this one.
We're not touching this one. All right, on to the Colts, who travel to Cincinnati here to face the Bengals. Bengals favored by 10.5 in this one.
How about them Bengals?
Big spread. Colts, though, lost Malik Hooker. Weren't that talented to begin with on that side of the ball. They need all the help they can get. They need luck ASAP.
And he's probably going to be out for the season.
And it's not happening. So there's really, the spread seems about right. There's not much to talk about. Like
the Colts, the Colts defense went from pretty nice little story where all their veterans were playing pretty well, Jabal Sheard and John Simon, Jonathan Hankins and Rashawn Melvin, all these guys that they've pieced together, and they've just kind of reverted back to themselves, right? They've come back to
it's like I didn't
what we
did you
expected.
Expect Rashawn Melvin to be
No.
great? It's like no.
I mean, even if like the overall grades are still pretty
yeah.
good, but I'm saying like the last couple of weeks they just don't look like a very good defense. We were talking around the office today, trying to concoct potential trades. Taylor, you're going to have to do 20 push-ups for sneezing in the podcast nook.
Like,
come on, man. Have you ever? I'm going to go all Chris Berman on you. Have you ever worked in production before?
I have a sneeze button.
Well, we need to get you a sneeze button in the corner. I don't know how you do that, but we were talking in the office about potential trades, and does Indy have anybody to give up? And Vontae Davis's name came up at corner. Could he go to a corner needy team, Kansas City or Oakland maybe? I think that would just be an interesting scenario with the trade deadline coming up, and Indy not only weak on defense, but they're just not going to.
A little aside, because there's not really much to talk about in this game. I think the Bengals win handily. The NFL, they've been all about trying to make themselves this, storyline, 365 days a year. If they eased trades in the NFL to the salary cap implications of them, I think you would see a lot more trades.
More exciting trades.
More exciting trades.
Right.
And more trades at the deadline. I think that would be. I'm not sure if it would be good for the game, but I think it would just bring some more excitement to the table if they ease the salary cap implications, because a lot of teams aren't willing to do it because of how much you have to eat in salary.
I like to think that it's more salary. It's more than salary driven though too. It's also like do you just grab a guy and plug him into your system? It's not like baseball where it's like you're going to go from hitting a baseball to hitting a baseball in a different city.
It depends on the position, but yeah.
It does depend on the position, but I do think scheme limitations have to be a part of it. I feel like we've seen slightly more trades, a few more in the recent years, right? We're more player-for-player type stuff and everything, but there's always a lot of like this guy's not fitting, let's go player for player, or let's do a few. I'm all for more trades. Colts don't look great. Bengals still on the rise, even though they lost to Pittsburgh last week.
I agree. I think the Bengals, I don't think they're out of it. I was looking at the AFC today. I think there are 3 teams that would call out of it, and Colts are one, Jets are one, the Browns are the other, and I think that's really it at this point. Then the 4th team would be like the Ravens. I don't even think the Bengals are as far behind as the Ravens are at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting them to beat Pittsburgh on the road, but maybe have a better showing, at least in the second half. That was a disaster offensively in the second half.
Well, they didn't give it to Mixon. Just ask Joe Mixon if why they lost.
Oh, I know. But look, the Bengals still have that defense that's creating a ton of pressure. They didn't do it as much last week, but still have Carl Lawson off the edge and Carlos Dunlap and a tough defense, an underrated defense that will keep them in every game.
Agreed. On to the Los Angeles Chargers, who also travel across the country to face the New England Patriots. Patriots a 7-point favorite in this one. Is New England back? They look back.
Well, defensively, look, we said a few weeks ago a lot of their defensive issues were communication issues and things that seemed fixable.
Yes.
And things that seemed like Belichick's going to be able to coach these guys up, right? They're not as bad as they looked. I don't know if they're as good as they looked on Sunday night, where they basically shut out the Atlanta Falcons, and
it was the fog.
But there was a couple.
See the ball.
There was a couple missed field goals. There was a terrible 4th and 1 jet sweep call. So, however you want to position it, was it as good as a 7-point game? But the defense is much better at this point. I think the offense is still one of the league's best. They've got some red zone issues that they can iron out. But yeah, I mean the Patriots still look like one of the best teams in the NFL. This is going to be a good game, though. I mean, the Chargers are starting to play like what we expected before the season. That pass rush is incredible with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, the best tandem in the league right now per PFF grades, and a secondary led by Casey Hayward. That's pretty good.
God, Casey Hayward. We talk about him a lot, but it's still insane to me that he's playing on the contract that he is with how much he's making less than half of Stephon Gilmore for the Patriots and playing twice as well.
Yeah, well, so that's the other thing, by the way, with the Patriots. Gilmore's been out the last few weeks, and they've looked better.
I was going to say,
And they have Batamosi in there, Jonathan Batamosi, who's a special team ace, right? You got to say ace when you mention a special team, but they're all aces. And he's come in and just, hasn't busted any coverages, and he's making tackles in front of them, and he's playing he's just playing pretty well between him and Jonathan Jones. With Malcolm Butler, that's how they've pieced together that secondary.
Are you saying Bill Belichick made a mistake in signing Stephon Gilmore? Is that what you're trying to say, Steve?
I'm not. I'm just saying they've sneakily been better without Stephon Gilmore. Look, Gilmore had basically 2 bad games, and they were the 2 games that they gave up 30-plus points, and the Panthers game when he every penalty that he had was untimely and stuff like that. He's not that bad, but they've looked better without him. That's just where they are.
Yeah, I do think.
But they're without Dante Hightower now.
I know.
For
that one's probably the biggest one because I thought he could have eased some of their pass rush woes.
Right.
Just from a blitzing perspective, he's by far the best blitzing linebacker, and it's going to hurt. Like now, if you do have to go blitz heavy, now if they do have to blitz to bring pressure, you're still not. If you don't get home with it, it's even a bigger issue than if you didn't blitz. So I think that could hurt them long term. In this one, I don't see it being a huge issue, just because that Chargers offense is not anything special at this point.
The Chargers offense. So they still have their offensive line issues, and Rivers has some games where he looks like he's okay, and other games where he looks old, right? Where he's just floating balls up there. I really think the Chargers defense though keeps them in. The Patriots offense hasn't faced a great defense in a few weeks now, and I feel like they're gonna struggle a little bit, relatively against this Chargers defense. It might be a tighter game, at least early on.
Yeah, Bosa was unblockable last week. His pass rusher, 2 sacks, 5 hurries, had the highest pass rushing grade. It was going up against the Broncos' right tackles, but I still think you can get it done against someone.
Well, those are the games you need to pad here. So we got Melvin Ingram at number 5 overall in PFF grades, and Bosa's number 9. 87.8 for Bosa, 90.4 for Ingram. That's the best pairing so far this year.
Tough. That's tough to block, and I think they'll get after Brady, but it's all said and done. I'm still going with the Patriots.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, on to the Bears, who traveled down to New Orleans to face the Saints. Saints, a 9-point favorite. Do the Bears pass more than 10 times in this game?
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
When you go down to the Dome, you're going to start chucking it around. Look, the Saints'
ball
defense
just flies better there.
The Saints' defense, man, they are getting better and better. This is like, we call it Marshawn Lattimore focus over here. Right? Just touting him every single day.
Happily.
Rookie of the Year candidate, number 1 Rookie of the Year. Jags should have drafted. The Jags have the best pass defense in the NFL, and you still think they should have drafted Marshawn Lattimore, right?
I mean, because he's the best defensive player from this class so far. Yeah,
of course.
You wouldn't want another amazing number 1 cornerback. You wouldn't want 3 number 1 cornerbacks. That wouldn't be good for you. As much as Leonard Fournette, okay, we'll get to that later. As much as Leonard Fournette exceeded my expectations, though, they would be a better team with Marshawn Lattimore. There is zero doubt in my mind right now.
Yeah, as good as they are against the pass right now.
Yes.
So, look, he is a playmaker now in the Saints defense. Sam brought up the point. Now he started tracking receivers a little bit last week. They're starting to have more faith in him. They've got more flexibility. They were still that laughingstock defense of the NFL the first 2 weeks when they gave up that 140-plus passer rating to Brady and Bradford. But since that time, one of the better defenses in the NFL.
Yeah, and Alex Okafor came out of nowhere to be a legitimate second pass rusher across from Cam Jordan, which
that's what they've needed.
Almost equally important.
And that's what they've needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Jordan's our number 1 edge defender. Lattimore, one of our top corners in the top in the Rookie of the Year race. So they've got these couple stars, and guys like Okafor surrounding it. Sheldon Rankins is starting to play better on the defensive line. I mean, this defense is coming together in New Orleans. How much?
I've been saying I've been the biggest Saints apologist in terms of every year I'm like, the Saints get anything from that defense. I'm like, they signed all these free agents. Oh, okay, that defense is going to be better now, and they're going to go to the playoffs. It never turns out. The defense never looks any better. This year they actually look better.
So
and
how good are they, Mike? How good are they?
Are they the favorites in the NFC then to go to the Super Bowl? Because you look at the other teams in the NFC right now playing well. Minnesota, nothing at quarterback. Philadelphia, Carson Wentz at quarterback, who while he's playing well, it's still a second-year quarterback, still not near the level that you'd put Drew Brees at right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They got the best quarterback right now in the NFC with a legitimate defense, pretty good offensive line and running game.
Well, I just think I think the NFC is loaded with potential teams, right?
Yes.
You can't sleep on Seattle. Mm-hmm. They've overcome the offensive line issues plenty. Their defense is fine. New Orleans is now, I think, solely in that mix. Philadelphia is in that mix. Philly still has to play Dallas a couple times. I would not sleep on Dallas, even though I don't trust that defense. I thought last year that defense, they gave up a lot, but they just kept them. It wasn't as bad as it is this year, I'd say. Mm-hmm. And I think Dak is still capable of
doing
a
lot more talent in the secondary last year.
Yeah, that's all. They're younger in the secondary this year. That's my bigger issue. There's a lot of good teams in the NFC, but I think you have to put the Saints up in that mix. Now, the Bears' defense, we ranked them at number 3.
So I was just going to ask, do the Bears, can they stop Drew Brees and company?
I think they can make it difficult. Look, I don't know if the Bears are fool's gold or not, but they were the subject of Well Actually this week for Sports Illustrated. Sam and I broke them down. We took your mocking tones and said, look at this Bears defense. They only gave up 3 to Carolina. They scored 14 themselves, thanks to Eddie Jackson. But they're getting some pretty good play from guys like Adrian Amos at safety, Jackson at safety, Danny Trevathan at linebacker, Akeem Hicks playing at a Pro Bowl level on the defensive line. I don't know if they can keep it up, but they've been fun to watch, and they've done it against some pretty good offenses as well.
They have. I will eat my crow from last week. I did mock it a little bit. I did say that the third, I would not have put them in the top 5, but I'll gladly say I was dead wrong because they looked very good.
Those PFF grades looking good.
The safeties being as good as they are is just something I had not really accounted for, and the fact that Kyle Fuller's playing better than he ever had.
So I have this quick theory about NFL parity, and it's that there's just average quarterback play across the league.
You have a lot of these theories about everyone being average, like everyone being the same.
Everything's average. Well, I guess I do, huh?
Yeah, that's all. You just told me you're a college football coach.
All college quarterbacks are average. Yeah. Basically, Mike, life is a small sample size. So don't put much stock in anything. That's what I like to say. Life is a small sample size. No, but I think we have something like 20 quarterbacks all ranked like in the 70s right now, or graded in the 70s. But there are a lot of defenses like the Bears and the Steelers that are starting to get better. I think the NFL's brought a lot more defensive talent into the league the last couple of years. Pair that with some mid-tier quarterback play, and I think that's why you've got some low-scoring games.
I can get on board with that, definitely.
Thanks.
We got a little sidetracked. I'm still taking the Saints in this one.
I also take the Saints in the Dome.
All right, let's move on. Falcons travel to the Jets. Falcons only 5-point favorites. I actually got the line at 4.5. That seems crazy to me. The Falcons, if you would have told me that at the beginning of the season, that the Falcons would be 4.5-point favorites heading to New York to face the Jets, I would have told you that that's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Even on the road.
I would have said Matt Ryan's hurt. I would have said they were playing a backup quarterback.
Well, the Falcons, so I wasn't expecting this type of regression from Matt Ryan. I was expecting statistical regression, not actual on-field regression that is leading to average stats. And the rest of their roster, they have this up-and-coming defense. They're creating more pressure now than they did last year when they had Vic Beasley for the whole season. They get a good offensive line, a good run game, and weapons. Yeah, they should be a much better team than the Jets.
Matt Ryan's accuracy percentage on deep balls this year, 17.4%. Adjusted completion percentage, 17.4%. Last year he was 57.1.
It's that
legitimately night and day. At the big number, he was best in the NFL last year, worse in the NFL.
And that's
what
he was closer to that in 2015. Why this massive regression? It can't. Now look, we keep saying Kyle Shanahan absolutely schemed some of those open, but Matt Ryan was also hitting the deep crosser to Julio Jones and the post routes. I mean, he was still on.
The corner in the post corners.
The post corners in that offense are a big part of it. So some were schemed open, but Matt Ryan played so much better last year. And he's just, even short area accuracy, he is just off this season. Missed a couple touchdowns against New England, just misses, and a little late on a couple where defenders were getting in. Something is off with Matt Ryan, and I don't know if you chalk it all up to just scheme, right? You can't just put it all on Steve Sarkisian.
It feels like Carson Palmer circa from 2015 to 2016, where it's like he played so lights out, but then you expected him to fall back, but then it's just like he fell off the map.
Right.
That's what it feels like to Matt Ryan.
The results are very much like that. But with Matt Ryan, he's grading lower than he normally does. Even in 2015 where his stats weren't great, he was still one of the top-graded quarterbacks, and all we said is, look, he just doesn't have the playmakers. They're not scheming open stuff. He's had some interception bad luck. This year, it's a conservative game. He's second lowest in turnover-worthy play percentage, too. He's just not making big plays at all, and that's why. And he's missing, and his short area accuracy is not great. So at some point, I expect Matt Ryan to play.
Thinking, what, I bet the Falcons in this one.
But here's where I am with Matt Ryan. I think there's enough of a track record that he gets he's going to go on a streak at some point. 3, 4, 5, 6 games where he looks really good, the way he should, and they get back on track. And starts this week against the Jets, Mike. So don't worry about it.
It should. Like I said, I'm not really going to talk much about the Jets this year because I still have no clue. I can't make heads or tails of the offense. I've watched it a good deal. Don't know how it's working because. Look, not a lot down on a receiver.
Josh McCown can make plays at the NFL level. You know what? So like at the end of the day, the stats aren't always there. The PFF grade's not there, but and there'll be some disastrous plays in there. But the guy can make plays out of the pocket and find open receivers, and he can do enough to keep them in games. And I think that's just what he's doing this year. McCown's, even when you say he's like one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the NFL, he's still not like disastrous bad. Like they can't move the ball.
Yeah. But like I said, I still wouldn't be surprised if they don't win another game for the rest of the season.
No, that's fair.
And I'm not picking them to win this one. Falcons, I think you're...
I also take the Falcons, yes.
As well. All right, on to the 49ers, who travel to Philadelphia to face the Eagles. Eagles, 12.5-point favorites. Eagles straight rolling right now. Everyone eating their words on Carson Wentz this past Monday night. He looked good. He looks... legit. Like I wasn't
really
sure
good.
he'd ever get to this level of play this quickly because of just where he came from in North Dakota State. Just that what he did as a rookie being so just up and down.
Yeah, he was really consistent.
The consistency that he's shown over the past handful of weeks has been impressive.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you do it on Monday night, though, it counts for like 8 games, right?
Oh yeah,
in the realm of public perception. But it was really good. He had the early interception, bounced back, made some huge throws. Once he hit that deep ball, by the way, Mac Hollins, legitimate deep threat. I mean, when we were watching him during the draft process,
a safety on him. It's like
no, I know with the safety.
Over. Yeah.
But there were routes even when he wasn't targeted last year. He has that second gear, that whole like 20 to 40 yard gear, where he just gains ground. It's kind of like what Martavis Bryant showed. He reminded me of Martavis from a couple years ago.
That's a good call.
Where Martavis was just this really impressive deep threat. Maybe didn't run the best routes, but he could create big plays. You could get one or two of these from Mac Hollins every single week, or at least the opportunity, That's a huge part of that offense when you already have Alshon Jeffrey to be able to make those contested catches. You have Nelson Aguilar out of the slot now. I mean, this is a very tough team. Zach Ertz, what he's doing as a receiver in the passing game. So, yeah, impressive job by Wentz. By the way, that incredible touchdown that he had under pressure, do you know that was his only completion under pressure that night?
Really?
And it was incredible.
I was going to bring this up.
There are still pressure numbers that are concerning.
It is very concerning. He is dead last in the NFL right now in terms of quarterback rating under pressure.
Yep.
Completion percentage of only 43.6 when he faces pressure. But the thing is, he's facing pressure at one of the lowest bottom five rates in the NFL. I don't know how to.
No, you're right.
Okay, bottom 5. Yeah.
Fewest percentage of pressured snaps.
Let's figure this one out. He's facing it at
lowest percentage of pressured snaps.
Yes. He's not facing a lot of pressure is what we're trying to say. But low-key, that Monday night game, they lost Jordan Hicks. They lost Jason Peters. He might be under more pressure. Like, it was a great win, celebrated it, but they came out that game, I might be thinking they're less contenders than they were before because you lose a top 5 left tackle in Jason Peters and you lose a top 5 linebacker in Jordan Hicks like that, and top 10 linebacker. You're going to take a step back.
It's massive. Look, you're going from Jason Peters, 86.4 PFF grade, like you said, one of the best in the league. You're going to Big V, Vitae, and I don't know if they officially are going to move Lane Johnson to left tackle. You know me, I'm a big believer. You just need tackles.
Don't do it.
Just keep him at right tackle. It's not like he's facing better pass rushers on the left. Mm-hmm. It's not like it's more important to protect at left tackle. So Big V, you put him in at tackle. He's got a 46.1 grade this year. And when Lane Johnson went down last year, that was a big issue for Wentz, right? And and Vitae struggled early. He got better as the year went on last year, but he struggled very early, and Wentz's season had issues. Look, I think Wentz is a much better player this year. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I mean, this is not an insignificant injury.
It's really not. And I don't think it really affects them this week because they're facing a 49ers defense that I think you'll still be able to exploit down the field. But if they face a team with a legit pass rush in the NFC and somewhere along the line, I think it could catch up to them.
That's something to keep an eye on, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well. C.J. Beathard on the other side with the Niners just kind of looked like a rookie last week. He had a couple nice plays, but nothing spectacular.
I still can't believe where they drafted him. They took him in the third. Am I crazy in saying that? I think it was the end of the third round.
Third, I think it was a little high.
I just never saw that. And I'm surprised they're starting him this early because I still don't see it. And, well, we'll see if see who's right.
I'm always fascinated to see what they saw in him, how they try to use him and all that stuff. I'm not saying it's a complete terrible pick, but it was higher than we expected from him.
We'll ask Bob. All right, on to the Panthers, who travel to the Bucks. Bucks 2.5-point favorites at home. Luke Kuechly practicing this week, should be back. That's huge for them, especially with the fact that basically Jameis Winston, all his throws go just directly behind the middle linebacker. Like, that's every single one of his throws.
all the post routes.
Seam route directly behind linebacker. So they'll need him in this one. And to be honest, that to me is like the difference. If he plays, I think like he can shut down that Tampa Bay passing attack, or at least limit it more.
Jameis is fascinating to me because I always call him a boom or bust player, and in boom or bust can show up, game to game or throw to throw. He doesn't have any exceptional game grades, and he doesn't have any disastrous game grades. It's actually been pretty consistent, like slightly above average all season.
Yeah.
And but as far as like within the game, you're seeing, and we saw it against Buffalo, it's like he makes this incredible play, corner of the end zone for a touchdown, then he fumbles. And it's that's been the story of Jameis. New England on Thursday night a couple weeks ago, he was terrible for 3 quarters, and before you know it, he's making big-time throw after big-time throw and almost leads a comeback. So this should be, we always say with Jameis, it's always an exciting game because there's plenty of ups and downs, and I think Carolina definitely needs to get back on track here, especially offensively.
Yeah, to put numbers to what I was saying earlier, over a quarter of Jameis Winston's yards this season have come from 10 to 20 yards downfield in between the numbers.
Wow, fascinating.
Over a quarter of his yards into that little sector.
Really?
Yes. So that is, like I said, that's Jameis Winston lives.
And
that's
Kuechly's the best coverage
and
linebacker.
Kuechly and Thomas Davis patrol that area. So having him back is huge. Panthers offense, though. I know they're going up against the top 3 defense in Chicago last week, but they're yo-yoing so hard at the moment.
Yeah, the thing that I struggle with there, Cam, they had that fumble for a 75-yard touchdown return, and that was Cam running triple option with Christian McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel.
And it works. Like it should have. He just dropped it. Yeah.
And Samuel just dropped it, and it's like, chalkboard play. And like back in April, they were envisioning this, right? They drafted these 2 guys, and it's like, we're going to run triple option with Cam. And then there are other plays. So you have some creativity there, right? And then you have other plays where it's like 2nd and 10, and Cam just has like 2 deep outs and a seam route, and there's just no easy pass for him, and it's just this. So sometimes they revert back to this boom or bust offense. They're struggling to get that flow of like, how do I use McCaffrey? How do I use Samuel? How do I take advantage of those guys? Those 2nd and 10 calls, those should be the ones where it's, McCaffrey runs the option route from the slot to pick up 5, or the dump off out of the backfield. And
yeah, it does seem like they don't have that running threat hasn't really been assimilated into the passing concepts as well.
Right, exactly. So there's a few plays where it's like, hey, we're going to run a little trickeration.
Yeah, it's almost like a trick play. Like, it's not a part of the offense.
Right. So they just need to find some flow offensively. In Cam, we talked about Jameis didn't have those ups. Cam's whole season is just a massive roller coaster right now. So you wanted to chalk it up to injury early on, and then he bounces back. But the last 2 weeks has not been good at all. So what are we getting from Cam is the big question.
He is going up against a defense, though, that has definitely struggled in Tampa Bay. I think a lot of people thought they were going to be a little better. They're struggling to get a lot of pass rush as well. Just pretty much every level of the defense.
Noah Spence out for
at
the
this
year.
point. Yeah, so if he is going to get back on track, I think would be a really nice week for him to do it. That's why I am picking them to get the upset on the road.
You are picking Carolina.
I am.
I think I took Tampa Bay. Did I take Tampa Bay?
Steve, how do you not know your picks?
I make my picks in 30 seconds.
Well,
full disclosure.
Steve, cut that, Taylor. We don't let people know how the sausage is made, Steve.
Well, my picks don't matter. I mean, I've got a good. But Mike, tell me what your record is.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I've got. You're 4 games behind me. I'm looking at the spreadsheet, right? You're 4 games behind me. I get Tampa Bay.
I
don't love it.
Okay. I'm taking the Panthers. Steve's taking the Bucks. Steve, tell us more about your fantasy team.
Our friends over at draft.com or Draft, you can get a free $3 game if you guys use the promo code PFF. A great way to play fantasy football. Mike, I just won money on a hockey game.
Ooh.
So I played a little hockey. You can play MLB. You can play NHL, NFL, NBA. They have games starting every couple minutes. You get a chance to win real money. And like I said, when you make your first deposit, when you sign up, use the promo code PFF. You get a free $3 game. I got some full season leagues going, which, doing okay. And they just take your best players. You don't have to worry about maintaining them and worry about injuries and waiver wire or trade. So a lot of different ways to play, from full season leagues to head-to-head, weekend, one-game leagues. They've got tournament-style stuff going on over there, so go check it out. It's at draft.com or search for Draft in your app store. Go and claim your free $3 game using the promo code PFF. Now I want to bring us to our picks guys, Eric Eager and George C. I'm just sticking with George C. These guys have done a great job with their picks this year. Check them out on ProFootballFocus.com. All the picks are part of PFF Elite, but you get one free one right here on the podcast.
I'm sure everyone is listening to this podcast. It is Lock of the Week time, brought to you by the PFF Analytics team. As usual, I'm George Shahouri. I'm joined by the one and only, the Lord of La Crosse, Wisconsin, Mr. Eric Eager. What's going on?
Hey, things are good. The over hit Thursday Night Football, so that's great. We were 4-1 last week, which brings us to 22-12-1. So yeah, not a bad time. I mean, Arizona didn't pull through for us, but you can't be perfect every week. So
just barely. That was so close, though. I mean,
the Phil. Hey, I'm a butterfly effect guy. Phil Dawson makes that first field goal. Who knows, right?
I totally agree with you. We're gonna ride that one. It's okay. In Bruce, I trust. They'll rebound. Anyways, it was a nice rebound, which means, of course, history will repeat itself, and this week will be, miserable, I'm sure. Nonetheless, we're charging on, making a trip to Great American City. We have not been there yet this year, so it's exciting. Going to Detroit, and the Lions are hosting the Steelers, and we're taking the Steelers. They're 2.5 point favorites. We like them to cover that spread. Before we get into why, we're going to do that little postmortem we do every week. What's the biggest thing that would worry you in this one if you were betting on the Steelers, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I think Detroit's not void of talent. I think one of the things that they can do offensively is run after the catch, whether it be Theo Riddick or Golden Tate. Golden Tate was a little questionable early in the week, but it looks like he'll play, and he leads all receivers with 13 missed tackles forced, 6 yards per carry, or 6 yards per reception after the catch. And so he's somebody who can really turn the game around. And I think if Detroit's going to pull through in this game, it's going to be because of players like Tate.
Yeah, and it's funny that you say carry because he catches so many screen passes. It's kind of like that. But he's great. I love Golden Tate. I'm not going to add on to that. I just have a lot of respect for what he's done as a human being. If you know what I'm sure you guys know what I'm talking about. I love Golden Tate. I'm not going to add on anything there. I think Detroit has some players with some talent. They also have some defensive backs who have played well. So that's what would worry me. But let's move on to the other side with Pittsburgh. The thing that sticks out to me with Pittsburgh, and we talk about this every week because it is so important in predicting the outcome of games, is who has the better passing game, who has the better quarterback. And I actually think for Pittsburgh, what has allowed them to kind of make this jump in that area is that Le'Veon Bell is all of a sudden now the focal point of the offense, and that's having a big effect, I think, on Big Ben. So Le'Veon Bell, 82 carries the past 2 games after 87 in the first 5. Even though he's got all that volume, he's actually gaining more yards after contact, a full yard per attempt more, and he's forcing more missed tackles at a high rate. So I think that'll push Big Ben into the kind of less mistake prone Big Ben, and with Antonio Brown there, I think we'll push them over the top. So that's my spiel on Pittsburgh. What do you have to add there?
Yeah, I think those are great points. I think Pittsburgh's going to be able to move the ball and score points, and on the other side, I think it's going to be difficult for Detroit, who's relied on scoring points in many games, to do so against Pittsburgh, especially with an offensive line that even if Greg Robinson is going to play, none of their players on the left side of the offensive line have a PFF grade above 55. And so, guys like TJ Watt, guys like Bud Dupree, James Harrison, if he's going to play, are in a pretty good position to put a lot of heat on Stafford. And, Stafford was injured going into the New Orleans game. He gutted it out, played decently down the stretch in that game, but I don't think he's 100% yet. And if that's the case, I just don't think that Detroit can sort of keep up with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and you mentioned the whole keep up thing, points, which, by the way, you have to score points to win, as a fact. Thank you for bringing
That's
that
true.
up.
That's absolutely true.
I needed a math professor to tell me that. But we should mention that, we also like the over in this game. Our model likes the over quite a bit. And so if you're thinking about a high-scoring game, I'm going to take the team with Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown, and Big Ben as the side I want to be on. So I don't know, just one little nugget to add there. That's not a lock. The over. That's like a zip tie of the week. Don't get too excited.
Yeah, and those picks. So the picks that we don't put on our picks segment each week are available with PFF Elite, including the over-unders. And so if you're looking for parlays, for example, Pittsburgh -2.5 over 45.5 might be a nice little parlay for you.
Yeah, everyone loves a parlay. I don't know a single person out there that is betting on games that doesn't like parlays. In fact, Eric, I have a parlay for you. Ready for this?
Is that right?
I don't bet on games every week because I'm already invested enough, but this one's too good to pass up. So, starting off with Pittsburgh, as we just discussed, I have the over, as we just discussed.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's so far so good. But the kicker here is a diamond in the rough, a true steal. That is the Mike Renner-led Cincinnati Man Buns, a flag football team in Cincinnati, Ohio, playing this week. They are, I don't even know who they're playing, but they are a mortal lock.
Doesn't matter.
Mortal lock. For those of you that don't know, I guess my scouting team has told me is that Mike Renner is one of the best quarterbacks / receivers / cornerbacks / head coaches that there are in the Cincinnati area. So,
you were able to get get action on that game.
Yes, I have a connect.
I'm hashtag jealous.
Yeah, he works off a park bench in Cincinnati, and I was able to lay some down. So I suggest you take a trip out there, watch that game. I'm sure it'll be a doozy. Collect your money and then get ready for Sunday. Should be a great one.
And profit.
That's the name of the game. So you're welcome. First and foremost, and Mike, because there are going to be people at your game because of us, you're welcome as well.
Good luck, Mike.
He won't need it. I'm fully confident. I got your back, Mike. So that's what we got this week. As Eric alluded to, if you want more PFF Elite subscription, you can also check out the ProFootballFocus.com website, where our 5 best bets column is up, and you can read my crappy writing. But we did go 4-1 last week, so check it out. Anything else to add?
Lock it up.
You lock it up.
I heard you guys saying I was all talk on the podcast earlier this week.
Did you play the?
I haven't done it yet. I have not done the 100.
So yeah, you're all talk.
Oh, I said I was going to at some point. I'm still going to at some point.
Are you just waiting for the right game
biding
to
my
throw
time
100 in there?
until I really have a good beat on. Like I said, I'm reaching the point in the season where I have a handle on things. So
you're ready to drop a hundo?
It's coming soon.
Maybe put it into the tournament. The tournament's awesome.
Tournaments are fun. All right, let's keep it moving though. Let's get on to some more games. The Texans travel to Seattle to face the Seahawks. Seahawks 5.5-point favorites. This game would have been a lot more fun if the Texans had their full complement of pass rushers. I'll just say that.
If JJ was there,
that would have been
Whitney.
that would have been the PFF grades off the charts in that one. Just
right.
Seeing JJ Watt.
You mean going up against Seattle's offensive line? Yeah.
That would have been fun, but alas, we'll have to settle to see how Jadeveon Clowney does against them. What do you? Tell me how this one's going to go, Steve, because I can't really get a beat on either of these teams right now. There are 2 more that I'm a little still behind on.
I think this is just the same script we've seen from Seattle, right? In past years, they go 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks, where some games they look really good. Some games it's like, oh, this is the year. The offensive line catches up to them, and Russell Wilson has some duds in there. But when you sort it all out, Russell Wilson's always one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL, and the defense is always one of the best in the NFL, and the offensive line's always one of the worst in the NFL, and they're a contender in the NFC. That's just what they are, and they're so difficult at home, just to play the home road card. I mean, it is a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, Seattle is what we thought they were, minus, the pass rush hasn't been as dominant as it's been in recent years. And now they're out Cliff Averill. They signed Dwight Freeney. He'll probably come in and, grab 8 pressures or something. But to me, it's just the same old story. It's a tough defense, Russell Wilson-led offense, poor offensive line.
Yeah, as long as they have, that core defensively is so dominant. It's just Bobby Wagner, you look at right now, the highest graded linebacker in the NFL. And then Richard Sherman, teams just don't really throw at him anymore. And then Earl Thomas at safety and Cam Chancellor at safety. And it's just, you want to try to throw downfield, you have to go at their second corner, and you can only do so much of that before, Seattle catches on. And
and Shaq Griffin's playing all right for a rookie out there and everything. I mean, that's the team. That's the deal. Doug Baldwin, unreal at wide receiver still.
Can they take advantage of it, though, with Deshaun Watson at quarterback? The sort of, the big plays that he's created through that offense, is that going to be the case in this one? Or they just line DeAndre Hopkins up on the left side and throw it to him every time,
Oh, they might. I mean, look, early in Watson's first few starts, it was just force it to Hopkins. They were, even in press coverage, they were just running curl route after curl route, making the pre-snap reads easy for Watson. I will say this, though. I do think, pre-snap reads, Watson's okay. He's not great against teams that will, maneuver on the back end and, mix up their coverages a lot. And Seattle's not going to mix up their coverages a ton. They're going to play that. They're playing more man this year, but it's a single high look for the most part, and cover 1, cover 3. So he's going to have clean looks, but they're tighter window throws when you're against Seattle. So I think, statistically, Watson's been great. I wrote him up this week as far as why his grade's not matching the stats right now, and it's because every one of his bad passes, essentially, he's gotten away with, or it just hasn't affected them at all. And I think this is probably the game where maybe there's a couple interceptions there, and it's just tough to go into Seattle, especially if you're a rookie.
Yeah, I agree. I do think they are, I would say, outmatched on both sides of the ball. I think that they're going to have tough sledding offensively. As good as they've shown in certain games, you're just a rookie quarterback going into Seattle, and that's not easy. It would be
great. Now, look, it would be great if Watson continues to exceed expectations, right? And this is an unbelievable test for him to exceed expectations. And big picture, here's the deal. Big picture, they have this bad offensive line. They have one consistent playmaker in DeAndre Hopkins, and Watson's played pretty well since that Week 1 disaster against Jacksonville. We grade him as a mid-tier quarterback since he's taken over as a starter. That's very impressive for a rookie. So big picture, it's been very impressive. This should be a challenging one, though, in Seattle.
Yeah, I think we both like Seattle in this one. All right, let's go on to the Cowboys, who are a 2-point favorite, traveling to Washington to face the Redskins. I like the Cowboys in this one. I last week's game against the 49ers, blowing them out, getting back on track, just sort of looked like the Cowboys that we saw a season ago offensively. I know they're going up against the 49ers, but
you liked that domination.
But that's last year, them facing a bad team like that. You just expected it to be. They roll down the field every single time.
Right.
Run, pass, doesn't matter. They're going to move the ball. They're going to move the chains, touchdown. That's just what they are. And it's nice to see. I think Cowboys offense, it's nice to have that momentum, especially going into a divisional game like this. Oh, momentum blast there. Sorry stats guys.
Momentum.
Got a little momentum blast there for you.
The war on momentum continues.
But it's just nice to see them being back on track. Going up in a game like this, I think they are the better side.
Yeah, look, I agree. I mean, they scored 30 against the Rams a couple weeks ago, 31 against Green Bay, 40 last week.
And they weren't even getting stopped against Green Bay. I think they may have punted once in that one and had a pick. The offense looking better. Yeah,
they're starting to roll. I mean, just the run game with Zeke. That was look. It was against San Francisco and all that stuff, but domination can still be impressive. That's what it was. So look, I think Dallas is that. Like I said, they're going to start coming together, right? And then you talk about all of the turnover that they had in that secondary. I'm not saying that they're ready to completely turn a corner, but this is the team that feels like they could come together behind guys like Jordan Lewis and Xavier Woods, and you get this youth movement back there that they improve as the second half of the season unfolds. I think Dallas. I think the arrow's pointing up for Dallas. Washington is so banged up defensively. They went from impressive defense that was kind of exceeding expectations to, you're losing Jonathan Allen. They didn't have Josh Norman the other night. How much can they handle as far as injuries go? And I think that caught up to them against the Eagles.
One interesting note I found this week doing some research on the Cowboys as a possible trade partner for Martavis Bryant, which I think would be intriguing. But Dak Prescott, the lowest deep throw rate in the entire NFL. Only 7% of his attempts have gone for 20-plus yards downfield.
Just add a couple Martavis shots in there.
Only 2 completions to Dez Bryant, Terrence Williams, and Cole Beasley combined. 20-plus yards downfield.
Wow.
Just not a lot of team speed at wide receiver, not an offense that is the big plays that you would like to complement a running game like they have off the play-action pass. It's just not been a dangerous downfield passing game. It's definitely an intermediate, move the chain,
right.
Pick up the first down, pick up 8 first downs, and then you got a touchdown. So is that going to catch up to them? Like, is at some point someone going to be able to exploit, our defense going to be able to exploit the fact that they just know that it's all, these intermediate underneath routes at some point?
I mean, they didn't really last year because there wasn't a huge deep threat last year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there were points in the season where Dak would throw some 50-50 balls to Dez and everything, but he is in that. I'm not comparing him to Russell Wilson, Tom Brady, but he is in that mold of, I feel like they can win in the short and intermediate game. Wilson will drive the ball down the field a little bit more, but I feel like he's comfortable winning in the short and intermediate game and just taking what's given, right? In that Brady type of mold, and I think they could have success with it. Even and they don't necessarily need to be that stretch the field team like the old Brady of short stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that fair? He's not Tom Brady, but I feel like they trust him to make good decisions. I didn't know you didn't. In case you didn't know, I think they're fine though. I think they'll be okay, and Dak's starting to play much better than he did after a couple rough weeks to start the season.
Josh Norman possibly back this week, which I think they'll need him to have a chance. I think without him, you're toast.
Kirk Cousins quietly, by the way, playing now statistically off the charts football since like week 3. He's been the best quarterback in the league statistically, grading much better. And there's still just that little bit lacking with Cousins, right? Like game on the line, you're playing the Eagles on Monday Night Football, carry your team. Mm-hmm. And last year we saw that against the Panthers when the playoffs were on the line. There's still that it factor lacking, I think, at times with Cousins. Is that fair?
That's fair.
But overall, I mean, he still continues to. I thought that statistically he would have this major drop off. He hasn't really, and he hasn't had the same receiving core that he had last year, and he's still pretty much getting the job done. So it should be a good game.
What's going on with Terrell Pryor there in Washington? Being phased out of the offense, only 30 snaps this past week.
Yeah, he didn't see the field for a while, and then he drops his first pass, and they ended up going back to him. I don't know. I mean, he's still kind of an unpolished wide receiver, right? He's still a quarterback playing wide receiver, but he does bring this bigger play element there. I'd still like to see even more from Josh Doxson, though, too.
I know. Let's hope he gets some more. All right. I like Cowboys, Steve.
Yeah, I like Dallas.
Okay, we both like Dallas in this one. Let's keep it moving. Steelers travel to Detroit to face the Lions. Steelers favored by 3 in this one. Matt Stafford quietly not having a good year whatsoever.
No, he's not.
Very bad.
He is not at all. And we do some videos for
those contract extensions this offseason. Those guys not living up to them.
But I thought statistically Stafford's been a little inflated the last couple of years. So statistically he's coming down a little bit, but just pure playing wise too, he's taking a few more chances and missing more throws than he has the last couple of years. But it's been against the blitz, man. He's dropped. His sack percentage goes up 10% when he gets blitzed. His passer rating drops 30 points when he gets blitzed, and that's Pittsburgh's thing. They blitz not a ton, but when they do, they create pressure, the 4th highest percentage in the league. So this feels like that matchup where Pittsburgh's defense is they match up well with where Stafford is struggling right now.
Yeah, his last 3 games have all been terrible grades. And
9 batted passes total against New Orleans, with 2 of them being pick sixes.
That was one of the craziest games of all time, though. Like, that game just didn't make any sense.
That was a fake. That was a big Madden glitch, that game. That was not real.
But I'm picking them at the end of the day in this one.
You're picking who?
I'm picking the Lions.
Really?
To win this one. Maybe it's just I still don't love the Steelers' offense. Like, I still don't think it's a great offense at the moment. And it's still think a lot. I think Matt Stafford against what the Steelers do defensively, it almost like fits what he does well offensively, if that makes any sense.
Well, what about the script switch, the flip in Pittsburgh, right? It's supposed to be this explosive offense this year where the defense has to continue to get a little bit better every single year. The defense looks so much better, though, don't they? I mean,
yeah.
What point? I have not been a believer in the Steelers' defense the last couple of years. Down the stretch last year, they played better statistically and all that stuff, but I didn't think that they were going to be.
How much the talent in the secondary it's sort of almost Panthers-esque in terms of like you don't think it's that talented a secondary yet they're playing like it's a pass defense that's not even allowing like 200 yards a game.
Well, but they got Joe Hayden, and he's bounced back after a couple of rough years. Artie Burns in year 2. Mike Hilton, a guy that I actually loved coming out of Ole Miss, but he's really undersized, and he's an undrafted free agent. Sean Davis was just this athlete that needed to learn how to play football, and all of a sudden he's starting to make plays, and then the defensive front with Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt both on pace to have their highest PFF grades of their career. They might be legit. I'm not saying they're legit like they're going to shut down the Patriots, who always seem to own them, but as far as going up against a half-decent offense, I feel like they can hold their own, and they shut down the Bengals in the second half last year. They have been a tough D.
They have, and they're still getting after the quarterbacks. They're still one of the highest pressure rates in the NFL, so I don't have a ton of reasons why I love the Lions in this one, but the whole Matt Stafford, I feel like I said, they haven't faced a lot of good quarterbacks. Matt Stafford could very well be the best quarterback they faced this year, and
so that's the way you pick the Lions, though.
Yes,
there's not going to be an on paper.
That is actually
reason,
very true,
right? I mean, because the Lions have defied the odds the last couple of years. It's just been like, they'll hang tough. I always say they lion it back into a close game, even when they're getting blown out, and they make a fourth quarter comeback. So that's what you're banking on.
That's what I'm banking on. Should be a fun one either way. All right, one more game. Last game of the week, Monday Night Football. Broncos travel to Kansas City to face the Chiefs. Paxton Lynch is back at practice, but they have to hope that he's not actually going to be playing this week. Chiefs favored by 7. And
you don't want Paxton Lynch over the last 2 weeks of Trevor Siemian?
I mean, no. It's still legitimately no. Siemian's been ugly, but Paxton was still worse. From what I saw,
Simeon's been really ugly these last couple weeks. Really ugly.
I bought in, man, hook, line, and sinker after those first few games. I was like, this is the guy. Like he can do this every single week, and they are now a Super Bowl contender. And boy, did that backfire.
No, this was that whole like stick with your instincts, guys. Because preseason, I keep coming back to the AFC West preview show that we did. And just talking through the teams, I was like, wait, Denver didn't get better this offseason.
Yeah.
And Trevor Siemian's back at quarterback. He needs to make a massive step forward. Now they're starting to be the team that we thought they were. They've scored 10 points the last 2 games against the Giants and the Chargers. It's not good.
That's so not good. So the last 2 weeks, Trevor Siemian, passer rating under pressure. You want to take a guess?
6.
1.1.
Oh, I was close. I was 6 times too high.
31 pressure dropbacks. Let's see, 5 completions on 19 attempts, 9 sacks. It's like he just pressure gets to him, and pressure will get to him because they don't have a great offensive line, and he is not capable of handling it.
I tried to give it an explanation that maybe just look, he doesn't match up against certain defenses, and the Giants weren't a great defensive matchup for him. In theory, the Chargers defense.
It was the opposite.
Simpler concepts.
They're all single high.
Yeah, he was supposed to bounce back a little bit against them, but I think quietly now you're talking about Emmanuel Sanders is banged up, and how good is Demaryius Thomas? Was it you or Sam was recently trying to convince me that Demaryius Thomas is really just an average wide receiver?
Everyone's an average wide receiver, though, Steve. Right? It's everyone's average across the NFL.
No, Julio's
your average take.
Everyone's average, but Demaryius Thomas is not as good maybe as the hype through the years.
I agree. No, he's not any guy that's not a separation type wide receiver. The Alshon Jeffries, the DeAndre Hopkins of the world are very much quarterback based.
I think those guys are above average. Those guys are better than Demaryius because Demaryius doesn't really win at the catch point like those guys. Those guys can really win at the catch point.
Yeah,
Demaryius can sneak by the defense every now and again and pick up some yards after the catch on screens.
Can he, though? Like, he got owned in the Super Bowl against Seattle on screen. Like, they kept going to him underneath, and he didn't get like a yard after the catch. Like, I don't think he's that good after the catch. They just go to him a lot.
So I guess you're making my point. So he's not great.
And no, I'm not like saying he's not.
And you don't have Emmanuel Sanders, and the offensive line, boy, they definitely had a rough week last week. And it's just Denver's offense is in trouble, and I think a lot of it is because they really haven't added a ton of talent to it the last couple of years.
Ron Leary is playing well. That was a good signing.
He is.
But
I'm more talking about from like a playmaker.
Yes.
Playmaker standpoint.
Well, I'm talking quarterback standpoint. You still have a terrible quarterback.
And your quarterback.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's really no, I think,
who are they playing?
On paper reason.
We're just talking about Denver?
Like, we've talked a lot about their opponent, the Chiefs. They're a 7-point favorite. There's no real, not a lot of on-paper reasons to say that the Broncos should.
The Chiefs' defense, though, has given up a lot the last couple of weeks. And I always make the statement that they make things difficult on quarterbacks. It's been the opposite the last couple of weeks. Derek Carr had a ton of open receivers. They were unable to hold the lead at the end. You know, cornerback 2 is an issue over there now. At some point, that had to come back to bite them.
I thought he was, at the beginning of the year, he was playing well. And even at the end of last year, Terrence Mitchell.
Right.
Playing really well. And just so many balls down the field now. Like, I like him in the under. He's there. He's got the Eli Apple syndrome where he'll be in good coverage, and then all of a sudden he just loses at the catch point, and it's just
a chaperone.
You can't do that in man coverage. Yeah. 597 yards he's allowed already, 150 more than anyone else in the NFL. Over a 16-game season, that translates to over 1,300 yards.
Yeah, because nobody's throwing at Marcus Peters.
No one's ever gone for, I think, over 1,100 or so. That's like the PFF record over the last decade, which I would venture to say is probably close to actually the NFL record because of how passing offenses have gone over the years.
Dudes in 1986 probably weren't giving up 1,000
yards. So he could legitimately, and I don't think they're going to bench him because he's still good enough compared to what else they have. Like, his catch rate is only 50.8. He's still only giving up.
And he's made some plays on the ball and everything.
Yeah.
You're just going to get attacked.
7 pass breakups, but just loses far too many balls down the field, like I said.
Phillip Gaines struggling even more inside in the slot and everything.
Demaryius Thomas, contested catch guy, he could exploit.
Go.
And the thing is, with Kansas City, they play sides with their cornerbacks, even though they're playing man coverage.
You can avoid Marcus Peters
with Marcus Peters, and so teams will do that. That's what the Raiders did. So if there was a reason to point to why the Broncos win, that's what I would point.
So that would be the reason. The Broncos offense needs to get back on track, and if the Chiefs defense continues to play like they have the last couple of weeks, maybe they do.
Maybe they do. I'm still picking the Chiefs.
Division battle. I'm picking the Chiefs as well. The division battle should be a little bit tighter than it is on paper.
We shall see. That's it, though. That's all the games for this week. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing us talk about them. We'll be back next week. Talk to you then.